Greetings, fellow Earthlings, and welcome to Tales from the Hoop, a podcast dedicated to diving into the weird, wild, and wacky stories from basketball history. I am your host, Ricky Freck, and today I'll be telling you a story I'll be telling a story about one of the worst owners in sports history to my brother.
Dave.
And do you have any guesses on which owner we're about to talk about today? There's some bad ones. There's a lot of bad ones in the NBA history.
Sterling.
Sterling is on the list. We'll get to him at some point.
Okay. Is he a current owner?
No.
Okay, I was gonna say Dolan. It's not Snyder. Has to be a basketball, yes. I guess was Snyder ever a basketball owner?
I don't know. Who's Snyder?
Um,
Quinn Snyder?
that
He's a coach.
isn't it Dan Snyder, the
Oh, the Cavs guy. I think he was the owner. Interesting. You're on the correct team though.
oh, well, who's the current guy of the Cavs? He sucks too.
Oh, that no, I'm sorry. Dan Gilbert is the guy I was thinking
Dan
of,
Gilbert. I'm
not
thinking of
Snyder.
the Commanders' former owner, Dan Snyder.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I just, they all own so much stuff that it's like could be
Uh-huh.
former.
Yeah.
Um, it's the Cavaliers owner.
Hmm.
Did he own anything else, or is this?
Yes, he
Yep.
did. In fact.
Was he like Paul Brown or?
No.
Um, I have no idea.
All right, let's just get into it. On June 9th, 1925, Theodore John Stipien was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to John and Julie Stipien. Do you know this man?
I know that like I've read that name before. I can't tell you. Isn't there like a rule named after him or something?
There is, in
All
fact. Wow,
right.
look at you. And every time I've read it, I thought it was Stipend until I
100%
did this.
would
Yeah.
have said Stipend
Yeah.
until you said Stipien.
Growing up, Stipien played football and basketball at Shinley High School. He was
Chandler
offered
boy.
a scholarship to play football at Cornell, but turned it down to join his brothers in the U.S. Air Force and serve in World War II. So he's a veteran. He completed his training in Cleveland before going off to war as a bombardier navigator. Okay, so very very common of the time, people going off to fight in the war. Who knows? We might be back there someday soon. Who could say?
Bombardier.
Is it not? It might,
Speaking
maybe
of
not.
pronunciations, I've always said Bombardier,
You could be right. I don't know. I thought it was
or
bombardier.
or sometimes in my head I say Bombardier, like a
Bombardier.
French.
That sounds, yeah, that's real French. Yeah. It's a language of love, which I don't know if that's what bombardiers do. So Stepien, he survived a plane crash during his time serving in World War II over Africa. And it was kind of like, so the way it was written in the thing I was reading, was very strange because it was like he survived by holding on, by quote, holding on. And that was all that said. I
Hmm.
don't know what that means.
I mean, in your head immediately conjures the image of like the wing of the plane, like.
Maybe that's what it was.
But I
Um,
don't know how you get in that. I don't know how you'd survive that
yeah,
situation, and I don't know how you get there.
his co-pilot was like, I thought he was gone, and then he was just when we crash landed, he was there, and good for them. Like I don't know, it was weird. It was a weird.
Hmm.
They didn't really explain it at all in the place I read, so maybe there's a better explanation somewhere. But later, he helped drop notes to the Italian citizens, telling them the war was over. So when he returned back to the States, Stepien went to college at a place called Western Reserve University,
Yep.
using the GI Bill, and earned his degree in business.
Okay.
Uh,
WSU alone.
WRU, Western Reserve.
Damn.
Close. You'll get there. You're not reading it, so it's harder for you. He would eventually earn, and I thought this was a weird one. He would eventually earn a master's in any guesses what he got his master's in? A degree in business
Um.
was his undergrad.
Yep. Engineering.
No, it does start with an E though.
Oh, not education.
It was education in
Went back for
education.
education. Okay.
Yeah. But more importantly than his master's degree, his father loaned him $500, which he used to start Nationwide Advertising Service Incorporated, a recruitment advertising agency.
Okay.
He was
Great.
doing
Yeah.
all of this in Cleveland, the Cleveland area. I assume because like when he went there he's not from Cleveland, but he went there for his training, and I assume he really liked it. I don't know.
I
But
would bet that my dad would give me $500, so maybe I should.
this was also $500 in like
1945.
1950. Yeah, so a
Yeah.
little bit different than $500 now.
I think that's like $72,100.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yes, yeah. That's how inflation works. Um, in 1953, he married his wife Anne after meeting her a few years prior at a Cleveland YWCA dance, which I guess
Oh.
is Women's WMCA, YMCA.
Yeah. There's still some YWs.
Really? Okay.
Mhm.
So in the past, I'm assuming now that you're a YMCA expert. Uh,
Yes.
were only men allowed to go to YMCA's and women to YWCA? Was it
I
not like a
bel I don't know if it was like you may not enter, but I'm pretty sure that yeah, that was the original intent was like
where women could be women and men could be men?
a place for men and a place for women. And they had
Okay.
different, I think the types of equipment were much different back
Oh,
then. Like women, I don't think were lifting weights. And so it was
they
more
had those
like
like band things you'd put on your stomach and shake you.
class oriented and like
Okay.
silly things like that. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. So over the next several years, Ted built nationwide advertising into the US's largest independently owned recruitment advertising agency. The
Hmm.
business that he started with $500 had 35 offices in the US, Canada, and England, and was generating $80 million a year by 1980. So
Is it still called Nationwide? Whatchamacallit?
maybe I did not
Sorry.
look up that part because, well, we'll
Not
talk
not
about what
important, just
happens
curious.
here in a little bit with it. Okay.
Oh boy.
So now this is where the story takes kind of a funny, to me, a funny turn because during the late 1970s, men's professional softball was starting
Yeah,
to gain popularity.
of course. Yeah.
So in 1977, the American Professional Slow Pitch League was formed by former World Football League front staffer Bill. I didn't look it up, but I'm gonna guess Brine, Byrne. Uh, Now, I'm sure you don't know very much about the WFL, so let me just tell you that it's important to note. Oh, do you know about the
I
WFL?
I don't, but I really want to bring it back. I'm very intrigued by this idea.
Okay. I mean, they're doing this all the time, right? We have the new XFL, we have the fan controlled football. They're always trying to bring minor leagues back.
But I guess my thought is like I guess batting for like the extreme athlete, like the extreme baseball players would probably just be too good. But like more dingers sounds like a way better baseball.
Oh,
So
so okay, so you're talking about slow pitch softball. I'm talking about the football, like
my bad.
semi-pro league.
Gotcha. No,
Okay,
bad
we'll get
idea.
we'll get back to the slow pitch league here in a second. So the WFL, it only lasted for a year and change. Most teams lost money. With the Hawaiians, there was a team in Hawaii called the Hawaiians. They lost more than $3 million in a year. The league did attract
Yeah.
some talent. For instance, Oakland Raiders quarterback Ken Stabler signed a
Yep.
contract. So basically, they signed futures contracts if you were in the NFL. And the way it would work was once your NFL contract was over, you would go to the WFL. Of
Yeah.
course, because the WFL did not last more than a year and like 3 games, none of those players ended up going. But its biggest contribution was that it improved player salaries in the NFL because they were offering a lot of money. And at the time, the NFL was the worst paying professional sports, like major professional sports league
Yeah.
between like NBA, MLB, NHL, sports league in America. So they got the prices up. And also,
Very nice.
Marty Schottenheimer. Do you know that name at all?
Similar to Stepien, I know that it
Okay, yeah.
exists, but
He got his coaching start with the Portland Storm, so that's a big plus for future Kansas City and San Diego fans because he led your teams to several playoff, I don't know about victories, but runs where you at least made it into the playoffs, which, as we all know, as long as you're there,
that's
that's
right.
all that matters. You get a chance. It's like the lottery.
It means a lot more than not making it, that's for sure.
Well, I'm just saying, like, if you have a coach who can get you to the playoffs every year for 5 years, at least you
Yeah,
have a
yeah, yeah.
shot, right? Like,
Yes.
you're not the I don't know. I was about to say the Commanders, but they're good now, so I guess I can't say that
They're
anymore.
definitely making playoffs this year.
Or the Lions. Crap, all the bad teams are good now. It's
I
weird.
was gonna say it's flipped. Jags probably is the one you want to.
No, the Panthers. The Jags have a quarterback.
They
The
have a
Panthers are
quarterback,
trash.
but I mean, it's like they're 2-6, 2-7
Yeah, but I mean, you could turn around in a heartbeat with a star
with hair,
quarterback, right?
with hair like Trevor Lawrence. He can make it anywhere.
Okay, so we let's get back to the softball part you're very excited for. So in
Yes.
1978, Stepien jumped in on the men's slow pitch softball craze, purchasing the Cleveland Jaybirds.
I love that it was a craze and I need it back in my life.
Potentially a sign of things to come. He quickly renamed the team. So remember, they were the Cleveland Jaybirds, and he renamed them to the Cleveland Stepien's Competitors.
That's what I want my team name to be. It's
So,
great.
do you have any guesses as to why he would change them? Besides, like, I want the team to be named after me. Why do you think he would name them the Cleveland Stepien's Competitors?
He can say whatever he wants. There's no reason other than he wanted it to be named after him that he would ever name the team that. That's insane.
Stepien had recently opened a few private dining rooms called Competitors Clubs in Cleveland and was using the team's name to promote them.
This is horrible. This is terrible. All of this is bad branding in every way.
Well, it's not going to get better anytime soon. Now, here's what I do have to say. This is a very brief moment of sadness because sadly, the next year in 1979, his wife Anne did pass away.
Hmm.
Unfortunately for Cleveland fans, that meant Ted focused even more on sports. In 1980, the so is that a poor taste joke? I don't know.
No, it's.
In 1980, the competitors joined with, and this is a great name, joined with the Milwaukee Schlitz and
Oh, I love that. That's great branding right there.
the Fort Wayne Huggy Bears to form a new softball league called the North American Softball League. It had 8 teams, and our man Ted owned 6 of them, with only the Schlitz and the Huggy Bears having independent owners.
I gotta imagine Slits are the best team. I mean, that's why else come to a slow pitch softball than to have a couple slits and
Exactly.
watch
Yeah,
watch
exactly.
them ding it, you
Yeah,
know?
very good. So then later that year, in 1980, Ted tried to promote the league by having, and this is insane, outfielders from the competitors stand outside the 700-foot tall terminal tower in Cleveland, Ohio, and try to catch softballs that Stepien was throwing from the top floor. By the time the balls reached the ground, they were estimated to be traveling at 144 miles per hour. Several spectators had shown up. Uh, the first one hit a man. The second one hit a car. The third one, a woman was looking up, shielding her eyes from the sun, hit her in the wrist, broke her wrist. She would later sue
Oh,
Stepien for a bunch of
yep.
money. However, Mike Zerfross, who was a part-time player, part-time plumber, actually caught one. So props to Mike. This
Saving someone's life in the meantime while he's at it. Wow.
and here's the bad news. As you probably guessed, the softball craze didn't last much longer, and the league folded in 1982. So 10
Yeah.
years before you, sorry, I shouldn't dox you. Um,
Can you imagine? I'm guessing he was just zinging it. Like he thought that this was going to be funny, and so
well,
he
so,
just.
okay, I didn't put this in, but it was a thing they had done 50 years prior, like way back in the day. And
Oh
yeah, I
yeah.
think he was just like throwing them as hard as he could.
Well, yeah. I mean, I know, like you said, it's traveling that far, so it's picking up speed. But like dropping it is probably different than just
You would
gunning
assume,
it.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. They always say about like dropping a penny off the Empire State Building, how that would like really hurt. But
I mean,
I'm sure
seven
he was,
stories.
I'm sure he was throwing that thing hard.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. What an
Yeah.
idiot. I love it.
Stepien, you just have summed up this story. What an idiot. I don't know about love it, as we'll see here in a second. Okay. Okay, here we go. Now, again, I wouldn't say this part is like bad, but there's gonna be some weird stuff coming up that Stepien says and does. Uh,
Before you get there, I
yeah.
have a fun Schlitz fact.
Okay.
Did you know that it was the number one selling beer in America for like multiple decades?
The Schlitz.
Yep.
What happened?
It just fell out of favor.
Huh.
It's like a really weird story to read about. Like they started to fall out of favor, and then they were like, let's change up the recipe a little bit. And just every decision they made while Budweiser was making great decisions,
Yeah.
eventually
Like
they
the
were just like,
frogs,
what?
the Budweiser
Oh,
frogs, the
the
commercial.
commercials. I
Yeah.
was like, there's what is frogs? But yeah, it's like every other beer company was making great decisions, and they just continued to make worse and worse decisions. And
Mm,
it wasn't even that long ago. It was like 70s that they were like I
dead.
think 78 they were the number one selling beer. And then just if you look at the trend
Yeah, they
over
had a softball
time,
team, we know.
it's just like less and less. It's
Do they
crazy.
still make them?
I don't think so. I think
Oh,
they like
too
sold
bad.
to one of the bigger companies and
There's some similar story-ish with like Red Stripe, where
oh
they
yeah.
they I think it's like where they made them, and then they like were made here, and then made in Jamaica, and then made here again, and now they're back in Jamaica. I can't remember the exact story. I read it once when I was like, remember those commercials? Those commercials are funny. I want to have a red stripe.
It's everywhere in Jamaica. I've been there
Is
and
it?
it's yeah, it's like everywhere you go, they're just like red stripe.
And then if you take one, do they say hooray beer? They should do that. That's what I would if I worked there. That's what I would do. You got to have fun with it
Every time.
every single time. Yeah, I mean, like tourists would love it. Come on,
Yeah. I mean, the four people that remember the commercial along with you would yeah,
I'm
I
gonna look
know.
it up and see
I
how many
was
on YouTube. It's got have millions of views. Millions. I bet it has more views than the Upa Gangnam Style. All right, so
anyways.
Stepien didn't just own several softball teams though. He also bought the Cleveland Cavaliers in the middle of 1980. Soon after he bought the team, Akron Beacon Journal reporter Sheldon Ocker introduced himself and asked if they could talk for a story. Ever the fan of promotional gigs or not gigs, promotional opportunities? Ted agreed, telling Ocker to come to his house after church the following Sunday, and the two could sit and, quote, sit around the pool and watch porno films.
I was wondering why you were talking so weird to set it up, but
Yeah, sorry.
yeah. No,
Uh,
that tracks. That's
that meeting never happened, but Ocker
good.
did, he did join Stepien while the owner was interviewing potential new cheerleaders. Reportedly,
Mm.
Ted asked them hard-hitting questions like, quote, "What's your favorite color?" And if you were on vacation, would you go to a nude beach
And do you want to watch pornos at my pool?
after church? This is the best part of the detail. Those kinds of comments were seemingly par for the course. He also reportedly introduced his daughter to several people by asking, little Trumpian here, quote, "Doesn't she have great tits?"
Oh boy. Yeah.
His daughter.
What a winner.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I have a weird misspelling here where I spelled bad as Bade. Stepien's bad quotes during his early days as the Cavs owner weren't just about women. Okay. In December 1980, Stepien said, "No team should be all white, and no team should be all black either. That's what bothers me about the NBA. You've got a situation where blacks represent little more than 5% of the market, yet most teams are at least 75% black, and the New York Knicks are 100% black. Teams with that kind of makeup can't possibly draw fans from a cross section of fans." He also said, quote, "Blacks don't buy many tickets, and they don't buy many of the products advertised on TV. Let's face it, running an NBA team is like running any other business, and those kinds of factors have to be considered." Ted described the Cavs, who had 6 white players and 5 black players at the time, as, quote, "a balanced team racially, and that's a good reflection on our society because it's balanced too." Now, I'm not going to say he's not a racist because he definitely was, but to his credit, Uh, I think more of it was just like he was a crazy business person who had some weird ideas for the time because he also several times would say he was really big and really in favor of desegregation and wanted to have a totally integrated society. So I think that there's like a weird, just a weird dude in there that that isn't
Yeah,
like
he's not
we're
saying white
racist.
lives matter. He's just saying all lives matter, you know?
Sort of, yeah, sort of, yeah. Except he's also saying that like black people don't spend money on my product.
Yeah,
So,
the tickets thing is absolutely
uh-huh,
insane. Come on, brother. We
yeah.
can do better.
Um, what is clear is that Stepien strived to be a showman. It wasn't just about building a quality basketball team. He kind of wanted to make it into a circus show, and that's exactly what he did.
Oh, heck yeah.
Let's go ahead and pause for ads, and then we'll jump back and I'll tell you exactly what he did when we're finished. So I will see you. We'll be back in a second. As I said before we finished those or started those great ads, Stepien wanted to make it kind of into a bit of a circus show. After buying the team, Stepien picked a new fight song for the Cavs. Given his Polish roots, it was not a big surprise that he picked a polka song.
Oh, heck yeah. I'm loving it.
And he then had copies of the track sent to local radio stations with a pound of kielbasa, which is what a way to promote your team.
I mean, I would be very happy to promote anyone that sent me kielbasa. So
That could be our first real advertisement is if
it
someone
sounds
would
terrible.
send us a pound of kielbasa. We'll talk
Please
about
send
it on the
kielbasa.
podcast. Uh, he introduced two new team mascots, Crazy George and the Amazing Boot. Any
Oh yeah.
guesses on what you think Crazy George or the Amazing Boot got up to? What their act was,
Oh,
their
Crazy
gimmick.
George would drink from a boot.
Okay. No, no, no. So it's two separate acts.
I'm so sorry.
Crazy George is one act. The Amazing Boot is the other. I've been watching too much Stormzy. I'm saying boot weird.
But the boot is a character.
The Crazy Boot is a person. Yeah.
The crazy. Okay. It's got to involve drinking and pornography since no, um, my guess would be that the boot was a glass, some sort of, they would incorporate some sort of DOS boot, like a beer drinking boot,
Okay.
and that George
Crazy.
was a crazy take on President George Washington,
Ah, interesting.
and he would have all kinds of political, politically incorrect humor.
You're so close. George was known as the world's greatest ball handler and would end his routine by shaving a woman's leg while he spun a basketball on a literal razor's edge. The Amazing Boot was even wilder. His gimmick consisted of, quote, crunching empty beer cans with his teeth, blowing up firecrackers inside his mouth, and devouring raw eggs and whole powdered donuts.
Sorry, I was too in the box there. That I really needed to be thinking outside. Sheesh.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a
That's
different time,
impressive
the
stuff.
80s, different time. Uh,
I kind of want to see it all. Like the fireworks in the mouth. I mean, that sounds painful, but like I
I
want to
mean, you
know
might be able to find it on YouTube at this
how
point. I don't
they
know.
did that. It's
Um,
impressive.
I mean, I'm sure it was fake, but
I don't want to watch anyone eat raw eggs. I'm okay on that.
have you never eaten a raw egg? Like Rocky?
I don't think so.
Really, you should try it. It's
Maybe
really
as a
bad.
bet or a joke, but not like
I thought you were trying to get yoked. It's time to get all that protein in you.
yeah. So I should cook my eggs.
No, just eat them raw.
Yeah.
Go raw dog it. Just go
I
for it.
I will do some research on
What's the worst that could happen? Like
the efficiency
salmonella?
there. That seems like a pretty bad worst case scenario. Like the risk reward, I feel like isn't paying off there.
You got to live a little. That's your problem. You don't live enough.
I'll just sports bet or something.
Okay, fair enough. All right. So Ted also wanted to make sure that everyone knew it was his team. When he passed out brochures about the season, he included his face on the cover instead of any of the players. And that desire to take control. Sorry, you
That's
look.
okay. So I'm sorry. That's the reason he named the team that. He's just got an
No,
ego
this is the
problem.
Cavs.
I
Oh,
know,
but
but
you're
I'm
going
just
back.
saying
Okay.
in
Yeah.
general, like it had nothing to do with the restaurant.
Yeah. He would.
Other than he probably named the restaurant that specifically so that he could have his name on the side of it.
You
This
could be
guy's
right. I mean, yeah, he's
an
he's
idiot.
into himself. He's really into himself. I mean, wouldn't you be if you turned $500 into an $80 million a year business?
No,
Look at Mark Cuban and look at Mr. Wonderful. They're really into themselves.
I love it. I wish you would have just named all five members of Shark Tank.
I don't know. Lori, uh, uh, Damon Fubu,
Yep.
um, and the lady that does QVC Queen.
Lori QVC. That's her name.
Oh wait. What's the one that's a real
The
estate
other
lady?
lady,
Oh, that's
Barbara.
not Lori.
Lori's the QVC queen.
What's the one that does real estate?
Barbara.
Oh, Barb's. Okay. Yeah, sorry.
I don't know her actual name.
Forgot about Barbara. Okay,
Yeah.
so that desire to control everything carried over to the coaching staff as well. Stan Albrecht had been coaching there. Albeck had been coaching there, and he fired him very quickly once he took over the team and brought in former Minnesota Golden Gopher coach Bill Musselman. I think that's how you
Mm.
pronounce it. It's spelled like Musselman,
I
Musselman.
mean, there couldn't be a better name to have. I would have gone bodybuilding if I had the name, but
Yeah. You also just turn into a
or
robot there
that's a
for a second.
genetic issue.
Yeah. So Muscleman, I'm going to keep saying it that way, even though it's probably not how you pronounce it, had coached the Gophers to a Big Ten title in 1972, but his time there was marred by several incidents. The most notable was a massive brawl between Minnesota and Ohio State that left three Buckeyes in the hospital. And
Oh
apparently he had
boy.
like riled his team up before the game and been like, you guys should take it to him, be real physical. After he left school to coach in the ABA, Minnesota was put on probation after the NCAA discovered over 100 rules violations from his time with the school.
Was like steroids. See,
I mean,
he's trying to live up to Muscle Man.
I'm maybe,
We,
or maybe, yeah. I mean, yes, yeah, definitely steroids. Maybe some giving out money, probably some
oh,
like,
fair,
you
fair.
know, I don't know. I was going to say like drugs. I don't know. It could be anything, all
He's
kinds of stuff.
like,
There's 100 of things. If it's 100 things, it's got to be everything under the sun.
that's fair.
How many rules
He's
can they have?
he's like putting bounties on other players.
Yeah, he's pulling a Sean Payton. Yeah. Um, are we allowed to say that? Is that against the rules? I don't like Sean
I don't
Payton.
know. I don't know if it was ever convicted.
Yeah. Okay, fair. So on top of that, on top of his rules violations, Muscle Man didn't really seem to care about coaching in the NBA. In the team's first preseason game, he played Randy Smith. I mean, this is like worse than Tibbs. Randy Smith the full 48 minutes for
That,
seemingly no reason.
that was pretty normal then, right? Though.
I don't think in preseason.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't think so. He also missed several practices because he'd been playing racquetball and lost track of time.
Love it.
The Cavs GM later said that you could quote show he could quote show you junior high coaches that are better prepared than Muscle Man.
But I mean, again, how can you pass up on a name like that?
I
If
mean,
it works out, it's going to be the most memorable coach in NBA history.
again, I don't think that's how you pronounce his name legitimately.
Okay,
And
but if you grew up and someone was like, Mr. Musselman, come here, you would start saying, that's
Muscle
not how
Man.
we're going to say that anymore.
Yeah.
I'm gonna correct you,
Yeah, my name is Muscle Man.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see if it worked out. Maybe you're right. Maybe this all worked out for the best.
I highly doubt it.
The team started the 1980 season with a 25-46 record, and Stepien fired Muscleman, replacing him with Don Delaney, who had previous coaching stops at Lakeland Community College. I think that's how you say it, but I
Oh
apologize in
no.
advance. Dyke College,
Yep.
Dyke,
Okay, yeah.
and the Cleveland Stepien's competitors.
Did we fact check if that's still the name of the college?
I did not fact check that. But did you notice who he coached for most recently?
I'm sorry, no. I was too busy laughing.
The Cleveland Stepien's competitors.
Okay, this guy, this is terrible.
So he brought in Delaney for the final 7 games of the 80 season.
I'm
Uh,
sure they turned it around.
yeah. That included the final home game of the season where fans showed out in droves. The stands were filled.
Free
Everyone was
beer.
there, not to support the team,
Yeah.
but to honor fan favorite play-by-play announcer Joe Tate, who Stepien had fired because he complained about the team too much.
Oh, he complained on air about the team.
Yeah.
Okay.
They
Well,
also let Ted know how much they hated him, drowning him in booze.
wait, BOOS or
No,
BOOZE?
not booze, but yeah,
Okay.
yeah, like a ghost.
It would have been a way better story
Yeah,
if it
it would have
was,
been. Yeah, you're right.
but
Yeah, if
yeah.
the Schlitz came and drowned him in booze, that would have been way better. Correct.
What are you gonna do?
Things did not go better in 81-82. The Cavs won 15 games that season, and Stepien fired three head coaches. Delaney started the season, and then he was fired. His assistant, Bob Kloppenberg, got one game, and he was fired. Chuck Daly went 9-32 before Ted sent him packing.
Nice.
And then guess who came back to end the season?
Musselman.
Bill Muscleman. Got,
I actually can appreciate not playing victim to the sunk cost fallacy, Just
yeah.
if it ain't working out, just move along. Let's keep it
Well,
going.
and I will say he brought him back to coach, but he was in the front office this whole time. Like he kept Muscleman around the whole time.
I mean, you got to keep him as a trainer or something.
Yeah, I think he was. I think, which is going to be part of the problem soon, as you'll discover, he was like a scout and like like in charge of trades and stuff, or
Mm,
partially in charge of trades.
yikes.
Daly, who I don't know, you may not know him, but he went on to coach the Pistons very well
Yep.
in the '80s. Yeah, so
I know
Daly,
the name.
yeah, this was his first pro coaching job.
He won like he was a part of the title teams, right?
Yes, I believe
Yeah.
so. Daly would later say that he knew the writing was on the wall from the time he had his first practice and learned there weren't enough players on the team to have a practice. He didn't bother getting a house or an apartment. Instead, he lived out of the local Holiday Inn until Stepien fired him. Daly
That's
also
a
said, what?
that's commitment. I love it.
Daly also said he woke up each morning unsure of which players would still be on the team.
Oh no. Dang.
And
This is
thus
great.
we get to the most infamous part of Stepien's ownership, his propensity for trading away every asset in hopes of building an instant contender. And it might have worked if he and his team had been able to evaluate talent to any successful degree.
But it was all Musselman. Just
I mean,
bringing him down.
it was. I mean, it partially was Stepien.
Mm,
He thought he was
okay.
really good, but so Stepien's win now approach essentially killed the team's present and really could have killed its future. But as we'll talk about soon, they kind of lucked out in the end. He traded Bill Robezine, who you might remember from this podcast, was along with Daryl Dawkins, one of the first high school players to jump to the NBA. Unfortunately, later killed himself, but he had a decent career for a second. He traded Robezine and two first round picks to the Mavs, which was his favorite trade partner. They were the expansion Mavs. He loved to trade with them
Oh gosh.
in exchange for Richard Washington and Jerome Whitehead. So a guy who was a good player and two first round picks. Washington played in 87 games over the next two seasons, averaging less than 10 points.
Great.
Whitehead played in three before the Cavs waived him.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, that's a
Uh-huh.
real
Uh,
great
because
idea.
because he'd already sent away so many picks, Stepien also ended up trading good players for more picks, sending Bill Lambier to the Pistons for a first round pick that they used on John Bagley. So if you remember, who later coached the Pistons? Chuck Daly. So he helped Chuck Daly quite a bit on accident. That said, I do want to give Stepien a little bit of grace here to some degree because if you look him up, a lot of places, a lot of articles written about him will blame him for the 1979 trade where they sent their top pick away to the Lakers, and that pick
Oh.
in would later become James Worthy in 1982.
Mhm.
It gets blamed on him a lot, but he didn't have anything to do with it. So just very quickly, we
That
can't
was
blame him for that.
Musselman.
No, it was the guy before. Um, there was also a whole thing where he thought about trying to bring in 44-year-old Wilt Chamberlain that I didn't really get into because it didn't really matter that much.
Like,
But
had he retired or that was
yeah,
it?
he was
Okay.
44. Yeah, he was done. He was
So I don't,
well
Wilt played
finished.
for. Oh, sorry, I was thinking of Cream. Never mind. Never mind.
Yeah.
My bad. Yeah, my bad.
At the end of the day, Stepien's constant wheeling and dealing meant the Cavs didn't own their own first round pick from 1982 to 1985, five consecutive drafts. Ted wasn't there for the whole run, as we'll talk about shortly, but the Cavs only won more than 30 games once during that stretch, and didn't have a winning record until 1988.
Yeah. So all those picks were top 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, and even that, even them finally getting back into, winning ways needed NBA intervention to even be possible. Because after trading away those 5 picks, the league stepped in and created the Stepien rule that says that teams cannot trade away their first round picks in back to back seasons. Of course, that didn't stop the Nets from helping the Celtics create become what might become a modern day dynasty when they traded away 3 first round picks and pick swaps in the KG and Paul Pierce trade. So teams can still get around it in that weird way.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we don't see that happen very much because it really kills you. And then you have to start Ben Simmons of all people.
Or yeah. I guess they still have Harden and Kawhi, but I still think the Clippers sold too far into the future
Yeah,
because I don't think the guys that they bet on are going to stick around, and I think it's going to be really bad. And
yeah. I mean,
I
and they and
feel
they bet on guys who are injury prone,
and
and
they
we're
have nothing to show for it.
they
Like
got they
they're
got Zubac.
yeah, he was there before they made the
Oh,
awful trade
oh,
though.
never mind. Sorry. Well, they
Anyways,
they have him.
yeah.
So with all that turmoil on off the court, Stepien's Cavs kept losing, and fans started calling them the Cadavers. Ted was also hemorrhaging money and openly talked about renaming the team the Ohio Cavaliers and having
Mm.
them play home games in Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, and I don't know, get this one, Toronto, to increase
Mm.
attendance.
Yeah, okay, sure.
He, this one's really funny to me. If you remember his baseball stunts from earlier, he also threatened to move the team to Toronto and call them the Toronto Towers.
Oh, yeah, we could throw basketballs off the top too.
Yeah.
Should go just as great.
Finally, in 1983, Ted agreed to sell the team to George and Gordon Gund for $20 million. The league also arranged to let the Guns pay a cash sum for first round selections in the next 4 drafts to recover the ones traded away by Stepien.
Nice.
They kept the team in Cleveland, introduced the swashbuckling swordsman logo, brought fans back to the stadium, and drafted LeBron James in 2003 before selling the controlling interest in the team to billionaire Dan Gilbert for $375 million.
Wow.
However,
I
Ted
can't
was
imagine drafting LeBron and then selling the team.
they
Like,
still own they're minority owners. They sold the
okay,
controlling interest away.
okay.
And maybe not now, but at the time they were still still were part of the management team. However, with all of that said, Ted wasn't quite done with
Oh
sports
no.
after selling the Cavs. He did found a team in Toronto. The Toronto Tornadoes
Oh
played in
boy.
the Continental Basketball Association for 2 seasons before moving to Jacksonville. He also owned and founded the Global Basketball Association in 1991, which was originally planned to have teams from across the world. They ended up having like 7 teams in the
Okay.
Southeast.
Yeah.
The league made it through a full season before folding after a handful of games were played in the second year. Then in 2003, he founded the United Pro Basketball League, which featured 4 teams, 3 in Kentucky and 1 in Ohio. Again, it lasted a season before shutting down, with the remaining teams joining the North American Basketball League. And Ted Stepien passed away after a long life in 2007. Uh, but definitely not. I wouldn't call him a failure, right? Because he made a very successful business, just not a good basketball team owner.
I mean, he was trying things, you know. I think there's something to be said for if you have a passion and you've got a lot of money, what else are you going to do with it? Just, you know. I
Like give
mean,
it to poor people.
obviously there are better alternatives, but if you're a sociopath, I mean, he could have put
Yeah,
it into um, you know, estates or cars or like there's all kinds of
that's
things
true. Yeah,
that people spend their money on, and he's at least trying to give something back to people. So
that's true. Yeah,
he's not doing a very good job at it,
no,
but
yeah.
you know,
I mean, he was fun to some degree, right? Like
yeah.
he threw baseballs
Um,
at people. That was fun. I mean,
I
it wasn't.
really wish that he was alive to go toe to toe with Sam Presti and Danny Ainge because that would have been a lot of fun before
What do you
his
mean go
rules
toe to
and
toe? Like try to oh like them
like be in the
dissing
same
him?
league as them and have to trade with them. Because like you say, he'll go back to the Mavs to trade with them every time. Like He would
Oh,
just be
so
on the phone with Danny and Ainge and Sam Presti back and forth. How many draft picks can I give you, please?
I didn't I didn't include it, but there was a quote from the Mavs GM at the time who was like, I don't remember if it was like, I can't go in a plane or something because I don't know the next time Stepien's going to call me for a trade. Like he didn't want to be away from his phone because
For too long.
for too long because he didn't want Stepien to call him and offer him another trade. Yeah, it's crazy. And that was only
It's
in 3 years.
yeah,
3 years.
it's pretty nuts.
I mean, to some degree, right? Like if it had hit, if his trades had worked,
Right.
then maybe they would have a chance. But unfortunately, none of them worked. And then almost killed himself, or not killed himself, killed the team. He did not kill himself, thankfully. Yeah. So okay. So sources, real quick before we get out of here, so Dave can go watch the Bengals lose, watch his boy Jamar Chase suck yet again.
Okay. All right.
Where Washington
Better
Post
than Justin Jefferson.
in no in no realm of possibility is he better than Justin Jefferson.
Fantasy points wise, yes.
I don't think is that true?
Yes, this year.
Okay, I don't believe you. Washington Post, LA Times, Softball History USA, Cavs from Fitch to Fratello, the Associated Press, Sports Illustrated, an article in Belt magazine called "The Dumbest Man in Pro Sports," an article from Fansided called "How's Ted Stepien Almost Killed the Cleveland Cavaliers," and then Ted Stepien's obituary. It was a lot of early sources for that. So, I think that's it. You got anything you want to say about Mr. Stepien?
Thanks, Ted Stepien, for all the pick swaps we have from the Rockets and the Cavaliers. And I
He
think
really
there's
he
like
really
a
paved the way for the Oklahoma City Thunder to become a dynasty.
yeah. I mean, we're gonna have Cooper Flag. It'll be great.
Bro, that'll be great.
All because of Ted Stepien.
If that happens, I'll be so happy.
It won't happen, but
It'll be so incredible.
it's possible.
All right, let's go ahead and get out of here. We'll see you all next time. Goodbye.
Peace.